YouTube, Lizzie B here. I wanted to make a video that's a little change of pace today, and with this video, it is an XJW video. So I wanted to talk a bit about some of the things, some of the gifts that I have gained from having been a Jehovah's Witness. And I feel like this video I've been planning to do for a while, but I just never got around to doing it. But the reason why I wanted to do this video is because in a lot of my old videos and just in general, I talk about my regret for having, been a Jehovah's Witness and that kind of thing. And, of course, I mean, being that I'm doing these videos in the first place, you would imagine that I have some regrets when it comes to the religion. I mentioned a lot of the critical thinking that I did not do, a lot of the things that I ignored, a lot of the things that my inner voice was saying that I didn't listen to and that kind of thing. But I feel like I wouldn't be telling my complete story if I didn't, go on the other side of that and talk about what I've learned. Because if anything, every bad situation that you've ever been in, or every, bad decision you've made, every single thing that you've experienced in life, you can learn from. And so there's no such thing as wasting time except for not learning from whatever time you spent doing whatever you were doing. So with that spirit, I wanted to make this video and just talk a little bit about the things that I gained from having been a Jehovah's Witness. And one thing you will notice is that with the things that I mentioned, I would not have left had I not had these gifts that I received from having been a Jehovah's Witness. So the things that I mentioned were all also very instrumental in my leaving and waking up from the Jehovah's Witness organization. So without further ado, number one, I have excellent study habits. I have always, as far as I know, been a reader. As soon as I learned how to read, I was trying to read everything that I can get my hands on. But one thing with the Jehovah's Witness religion is that you have to constantly study for the meetings. And considering that there were so many meetings a week, there were 3 when I was coming up. So you're studying for each one and you're always, ready, for the meeting, ready to be able to give a good answer and that kind of thing. And so being that that was the case, we found that there were a lot of days that you're just sitting there underlining and just, sometimes you have to speed read because it's a lot, you know what I mean? So after a while, you're like, how to pretty much just read through a paragraph and answer whatever. And a lot of times they pretty much gave you the answer that you're supposed to say and that kind of thing. So it's pretty much kind of regurgitating certain things. But I did learn from that. And I learned how to cross-reference and just a number of things that I managed to take with me to school. So when I was in school, my study habits were really good. And I found that I was always taking notes as we read through certain chapters. And, when it was time to take the test, I was always pretty much prepared for it because my study habits were on point. I took that with me to college because, of course, when I graduated, I had really good grades, and so I won a ton of scholarships. And I was not one of those kids that, at the conventions, the kids that are like, oh, I turned down a full ride to Harvard. I did not turn down my full ride. I, took every scholarship I can get, and I went to college. And I took those study habits with me there as well. I made the dean's list. The study habits were, still on point. My classmates and stuff would always wonder how I managed to party, but I still always had really good grades. And so after that, I went to grad school and, same deal there as well. And then eventually when I started to wake up, I started to study some more to kind of see everything that I didn't, have applied critical thinking to, and my study habits kind of led me down the rabbit hole. So I'm looking at a ton of videos online in terms of, Jehovah's Witness religion, and then I'm reading all these articles, and I have old literature, so I went back and looked at a lot of my literature, and so my study habits are something that are just a part of who I am, and they've always kind of helped me. And most recently, they've helped me when it comes to videos and that kind of thing, because like I said, I've done my homework when it comes to learning about this religion. And so I definitely attribute that to the study habits, which I learned at a very young age from having grown up a Jehovah's Witness. So study habits is number one on the list, and I think it's just number one in general. I would definitely say that that is one great thing that I gained from having been a Jehovah's Witness, and it's carried itself with me throughout my life and has definitely worked in my favor, especially when it comes to jobs as well. I'm a great note taker, and and I get my work done quickly. Number two would be my ability to approach strangers and to give presentations and to talk in front of people. This is one of those traits that I know is not natural to me. I am an introvert. When I'm around people, it takes my energy down. And so I have to like literally go and take naps if I'm around people for too long. Like I am inside, I'm just always like, I'm the wallflower. I like to be in the corner of the room and watch people. And there are times where I can turn it on, but that's not my natural inclination. I'm just as happy kind of being off to myself or just kind of watching the vibe and that kind of thing. With that said, you guys know how I feel about field service. Yeah, I hated field service. I mean, like with the fire and intensity of 1,000 burning suns, I hate it. Yet I did it, and I was voice shaking, hand shaking, but after a while, I got better, and although I became better at it, I never quite enjoyed it, but I will say that it carried on to other areas of my life. So the field that I work in, the industry that I work in, which is entertainment, requires that those like me who work behind the scenes have to give presentations. They have to network. You have to speak to people or speak to a bunch of people and be in situations where you have to convince someone of something. And while those are not my favorite things to do, when it brings me money, there's a little part of me that likes to do it a little bit more. Like I can handle doing it. And also, it's not like I'm convincing someone of something that I'm not myself convinced of. And when it came to Jehovah's Witness religion, I was knocking on doors, but I wasn't really fully 100% invested in what I was saying, and there was some things that I was kind of struggling with in terms of, I want to live my life this way, but I don't think that I should knock on a stranger's door and try and convince them to change the way that they live if they're happy. And so with what I do now, with how I live my life now, these presentations are not like a conflict of interest in terms of my morals and how I feel about people and that kind of thing. It's part of my job, and so it's something that I enjoy doing a little bit more, and I've gotten better at it, and I am on the basis of what I learned when I was a Jehovah's Witness. And so I feel like a lot of the things that I've gained in life, a lot of the worldly pursuits that I've had, were attained because of this gift that I've had of giving presentations, of speaking to people, of just putting aside whatever fears or whatever timidness that I have and just stepping forward and being like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And it's really worked in my favor. It managed to, I had to do like a presentation, an interview to get into grad school, and I aced it. And I was nervous all the way up to the point that I did it, and I was just like, boom, and that was that. And so I don't doubt whatsoever. I'd be lying if I said that being out in field service, though I hated it, still hate it. I would be lying if I said that it didn't help. It certainly helped me to polish up, because it was worst case scenario for me. I mean, you literally have doors being slammed in your face. So you've experienced the worst that could possibly happen already. They're not going to unleash dogs on you. You're not going to like have to run or somebody's not going to pull out a shotgun. Like, these are things that could happen and have happened to members of my family and to friends and people that I know out in field service. And so the idea that that won't happen to me again is very freeing, and definitely helps with the confidence. One thing I will also say is that as far as my ability to give presentations and speak before people, I would not be doing these videos if I didn't have the ability to do that. So I'll have to say again, this is yet another example of how the gifts that I received from having been in this destructive cult, having been a Jehovah's Witness, have carried on all the way through helping me to get out of the organization, which is, its own little kind of catch-22, I guess, for the organization, I guess. I don't know. So that's that. And number 3, cutting someone or something off. This is one of the more interesting gifts that I would say that I've received from having been a Jehovah's Witness, because one can argue that it's a bad thing. But in my particular case, I feel like I've used it in a good way. One thing that is very notorious when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses is that they shun people. There is a policy that they have called disfellowshipping, where they cut someone off, whether it be a family member, a friend. It doesn't matter. It's just if that person is, disfellowshipped, from that point on, you are not to speak to them if you are a Jehovah's Witness. And so I had the privilege of never having had to do this to someone, and I'm thankful for that, but I can't say that some of that thinking did not kind of seep in for me. And because there's a certain detached mindset when it's time to cut something out of my life, and I've managed to do that in several aspects, and thankfully they've been in good aspects. Like, for example, I had a very I had a toxic relationship with a boyfriend, and one day I just was like, no, this relationship is over. And he didn't know what hit him. Like, one day we were speaking, and one day I've never spoken to him again. So, and that worked in my favor, because it could have really gone in a really bad direction, and it didn't, because I just cut it off. And that sounded bad. I cut it off. I didn't cut it off, but I cut the relationship off, and I'm better for it. I'm glad that I did that. And I had that situation also with a job where I just, I had a boss that was like a bully, and I gave my 2 weeks notice and I was out of there, and I still do not regret that, because it was another toxic situation, and the best thing I could have done was remove myself before I got to the point where I was fired, or where my reputation as an employee was destroyed, or anything like that. So I managed to leave and just leave it behind me, and it was good, and people were really shocked that I was able to do that, because it was a high profile job. But for me, it was kind of like, nope, cutting it off, no emotions, no, there's no attachment here. I'm out of here. And I will say that it's really, really come in handy, because I know there's so many people who go through life and they're seeking closure for every single situation. And that has definitely not been something that I've had to struggle with. If anything, I'm able to kind of compartmentalize certain things to the point where I'm like, okay, when it's time to remove it, it's already packed up. It's already, you know what I mean? And the way, the one place that this has come in handy, like, the most in my life, has been when it came to leaving the Watchtower. One day I woke up and it was time to go. I was just like, no, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? I think I was worried too. It was like so many years of having been in, the organization, and, answering to these elders. But the way that it happened, one day the elder from, my local congregation had called me up and was like, hey, are you coming back? And I was like, no. And there was no emotion there. There was, all, years of baggage was gone. No, I'm not coming back. That's how it was. And so I'm thankful for that. And I feel like, in a sense, it was kind of like I felt like I disfellowshipped in the Watchtower. And then when I woke up, after I left, I had still, it was still there was no desire to ever come back after I told him no. And there was no desire to really reach out to anybody, anything like that. But at the same time, I woke up and I learned all of this stuff, and it was shocking. But people are still like, well, you left. Why'd you leave before then? For me, it was just like, they were disfellowshipped. It was over. You know what I mean? But I didn't even have the facts to back up why I did that. It was just, for me, it was just like my spirit, or my, my emotional well-being, everything about me had reached a point where it's like, no, not anymore. This situation is over. And so again, I really have to attribute that to my upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness. And I have to be aware of having that gift, so to speak, because I don't want to ever cut anyone or any situation off that doesn't deserve it. But in my specific, personal experiences that I know of, I've done a good job of just making sure that it's for things that are toxic or not good for me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or anything else. So those are the gifts that I received from having been a Jehovah's Witness. These are the good things that I got, the good things that I've learned from my experiences, and that I'm grateful for having had. And when I meditate on those things, and when I think about those things, I understand that there's no such thing as time that's wasted, only wasted lessons. And so I'm gonna embrace what I've learned, and I'm gonna embrace the gifts that I've been given, and I would hope that you do the same. So please let me know in the comments below what you feel like you've gained from having been a Jehovah's Witness and how it has helped you in life. And I hear enough about everybody's regrets. We all got regrets. How could you not have regrets from being in a destructive cult? You're gonna have regrets. But I think it's really, really important to remember the good things that you've gotten and to use those things to your advantage and to your benefit. So let me know what your gifts are in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to reading them. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.